Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are back. It is 5 a.m. and we are out rocking and rolling. So if you're in bed and you're just now tuning in, go ahead and jump on with us. Today we have a pretty fun, I like to call it just checking in on the health of like a business, or this is actually something that I pulled from Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio, if you do not know Ray Dalio, he used to be the head of Bridgewater Capital, one of the biggest hedge funds in the world for resource taking in resources in like mass quantities and big international investments. So think of like the Philippines, like larger trades or kind of debt services, or think macroeconomics in general. He's kind of the master for that. However, there was a twist on this, and then applying this list that we have here that we're going to go over today to determine the health of a business. So we're going to kind of each one, I want you guys to just get a better feel for and see if any of these pieces you can apply to yourself, or maybe you need to just get a written out plan slightly on what it is, how you can apply these pieces to yourself. Number one. Okay, let's go to the whiteboard and kind of write out for today's. All right. So how we doing this morning? We're up, we're getting going. Easier to get out of bed this morning on day 2. I gotta say so. So just kind of having a rhyme or reason to get up and rolling. I'm gonna make it a little easier. And oh yeah, I got this corduroy jacket. I think I'm gonna wear this on Fridays. Don't hold me to it, but I think it's a Friday kind of shirt. Setting out clothes the night before can be very helpful with getting up in the morning. Reducing the friction points as much as possible, like we talked about. Okay, number one. So number one on checking the internal pieces for yourself, the health of your business, the health of kind of is number one is leadership. So writing out a leadership plan, and there's a saying within business that a company can only go as far as its leadership. So maybe today you think about one leadership point that you can do. Maybe you can be a better leader just by listening. Maybe you can be a better reader by taking down notes on somebody specific so you can remember it better. Or maybe you can be a better leader by getting up earlier. And when we think of, I want to blow up a performance coaching company and the leadership of that, what would something like look like? If there were to be a CEO of a performance company, a personal performance company where they're trying to maximize their personal performance, I would like to see them get up really, really early and be able to get after it and be very clear with their schedule, and like leading by example in general is the type of leadership I would want. So asking yourself possibly this question: what type of leader do I need to become to run the organization that I want? Say that's in alignment if you're trying to start a business. So asking yourself, what type of leader do I need to be to support the people I want to support? So leading by example, I want to be a good leader. So I'm going to get the hell on here at 5 a.m. and start talking about points on how we can improve ourselves. So you'd better suit maybe later down the road as this thing grows. It's like, that's how you could attract good quality employees, good quality clients, because people tend to work with people they like, and in the productive space, we can align the two. So next up number one, we had leadership capabilities. Number 2 here, we have education level. This is how economists, if you're just now joining us, this is how economists are able to value a business and try to see, value and health. Number one, we have leadership. Company only goes as far as its leadership. Next is education level. Education. The best businesses are always learning. You're always trying to be learning. I'm always trying to be learning. We're coming up on here at 5 a.m. to be learning. Yes. Making sure that the education is right and it's on point with kind of the direction this company is trying to head, and to make sure that the employees are educated enough to have the skills necessary. So maybe ask yourself, is there anything that I need to do education-wise to get me where I want to go? Say if you want to be a teacher or you want to be a nurse, and getting a better idea of the workload created with that education, being more comfortable, embracing that side of education, because unfortunately, we're going to hear talking about that all the time on the show, is we have the opportunity to educate ourselves at a high level, but now it's almost a demand. I think most of us are clear enough on the fact that education is so crucial and important that all of these other businesses that you are competing with are doing it too. So this is a staple, and you absolutely must have to do it. So maybe think of other night classes you could pick up along the way. Maybe a book on economics. You get, what is the Ray Dalio? Okay, I can later in the show, I'll go ahead and just screen share and show you the Ray Dalio book that I'm talking about that kind of points out a lot of these tips. Anyway, asking yourself about education and what you need to do. Maybe write down one book you said you were going to buy and read some of it this weekend. Or thinking of going back to school, looking at the program plans, looking at the pricing, getting a good idea, getting those details down to help benefit your education. So leadership, education. Oh, good. The next one is in perfect alignment with this show. Determination, character. Determination, character. Companies, the people within it, the health of the business is determined by the determination of the character. There's Ray Dalio in his book talks a lot about the work ethic and the mindset and the framing having a massive impact on an organization's ability to move, to be flexible, to learn about things, to be understanding with people's situation. There's this layer of communication when words are taken too literally that can really screw up work environments. I'm sure most of us can think of an example when the words didn't get exchanged quite how we wanted to say that. But having the character to just help be more empathetic towards the other people in the organization, and then overall just determination in a capitalistic market has proven just over the last couple centuries, this is the best way to get literal growth, is to just come in and work consistently. That sounds about as basic as it can get, but very, very true. Companies that have determined people and people who do things for long periods of time tend to get what they want. So maybe that's what he's meaning by it. We're determined, and we hold ourselves to high character to keep going and to not quit. So maybe think of yourself as, what is one way that we could become more determined in our day-to-day? What is one way that we could present better character? Is that showing up early? Is that jumping up on here on the live TV show with me and hanging out with me for a little bit before we get rolling and crushing for the day? Either or. So thinking determination and character. Leadership, education, determination, character. We're on to the next one, rule of law. The next one is rule of law. That sounds lovely this morning, 5 a.m. Get up at 5 a.m. and rake chalk across the board. Scream it, getting ready to rock and roll. Rule of law. This is more so, I would say, under the expectations of the business and laying out what it is that each person needs to do, such as job responsibility or description, thinking along in those terms. This for me personally, so the question I would ask as a coach would be, in rule of law, what are just some absolute no's or yeses, expectations laid out for people when you're working with them and what you want them to be doing? So just laying it out front. There's an old adage that 90% of the work is done in the first 10% of the process. Say it again, just because this didn't sit with me right off the bat when I first heard it or read it in a book. I can't even remember where I heard it at this point. But it does really save on the front end. So, and more so, I guess, from my experience, this is what I know best. Laying out the expectations with people right in the beginning. This is exactly how I need this to work. How do you need it to work to make this work? And just being open and honest about it is much better than agreeing on it and be like, okay, this is where we're at, this is where we're at, and then we're good to rock and roll. And it takes a lot of the questions out of it. But when you just are in this, I call it the speed of the deal, and things are turning really fast and you got deadlines and you got things to get done, you tend to let go a lot of these questions because you just need bodies. And you need someone specific, not just anybody, for the tasks that are important to you and your business, the health of your company. So again, doing the homework on the front end, classic situation, rule of law. I have this more on the understanding of just laying out expectations on the front end and then having something type of written document to make it enforceable. Like with my rental properties, I wouldn't rent the property without taking them extensively through the lease and then getting them to sign the lease to put it in the property, because that first part of the process covers a slew of opportunity of pain in the ass and headache for myself. So having that rule of law in there. Next is corruption. Corruption can determine the health of a business. And although you get on there and you'd think, oh, Tanner, the world, it's so corrupted, it's so dark. I wouldn't say no, but I would also argue it's gotten a lot better comparatively. Big fan of history, read a lot of history books, whether it's Lincoln Boys, getting tuberculosis, scarlet fever. I need to reel myself back. We're under the topic of corruption. And how can this apply to you? Again, we're trying to focus the show more so on you and how you can twist. So think of anything be open and honest with yourself. Is there anything that I could be doing that is causing corruption for my business, for my health, for what I'm trying? Is there anything I'm self-inflicting on myself on that you would consider corruption to the plan that you have set to grow your companies, to stabilize a certain client base. Or so many people, they're like, yeah, I want to quadruple my income in the 3 months of working with you as a coach. And then I like to ask questions, is there anything that we are self-indulging in that would keep us from getting where we want to go? And you can kind of think this could even, it's corruption. This is more comedic, but it's corruption to not read books and to watch TV shows when your goal is to be more diplomatic, or to just have that foundation to maybe take that material and go watch a show or go create a show or go network with and connect with people. So maybe think of it in terms like this morning. Is there any corruption going on in your life that you could adjust, you could fix, you can make minor changes? Maybe it's joining us on this morning show. If you're just coming in with us this morning, you're coming in and you're fixing the small pieces of corruption. I hope that made sense. That didn't sound as good as I thought when I was laying out the pre-think corruption. So just thinking in terms of not self-inflicting counterproductive actions. Yeah, thinking in lines of that, just cleaning up corruption in general kind of determines. I get Ray Dalio's tie to how, corruption, yes, would be a marker to determine the health of a business. But for the individual, I suppose a lot of the damaging stuff that we do is self-inflicted. So maybe just thinking of what we can do for ourselves, maybe in the current situation. Next, we have resources. Resources is a beautiful one because we live in a world where we have access to a lot of really, really good stuff for relatively pretty cheap. So if you're listening to me and say you're in America or at this point, you can be running all of this from a smartphone. I think you can get a brand new iPhone for $18 a month with, man, what would that be? Anyway, if you break down that bill, it's like $60 a month to have one of the most incredible smart computers in your hand at all times, and pull on StreamYard or whatever you use for, say, social media content. Your resources for outreach nowadays, it can be very cheap on the front end, and your access to who you want to reach can be unlimited on the back end. So some pros and tips. Some cons of that: competition, market cycles. So with technology, usually the big trade-off is ease of use, but competition goes up. So there's usually, with anything, there's a pro, there's a con. But just understanding that's where we're at today, is that you can write out a list of resources. So think of any resources that you're not using that you should be using to help push yourself closer to the goals that you want to achieve. The classic is being right here on social media, whether you're on Facebook and then you're not listening or watching something productive versus you're watching about video games or something that, or maybe you work in the video game field, I don't know. But if you don't, and then you're watching that a lot, or reality TV, pop culture TV, Brad Pitt's getting married to this person, and or whatever, stuff that doesn't really matter. How much time, I'm asking, are you giving up? Because what is the number one resource? We should add a little subject, because list of resources. Doing a internal audit of yourself on your resources can be extremely powerful as an entrepreneur to know where to what to do and what to work with it. So with resources, you can have money, right? Do you have more money? Do you need to outsource tasks? Maybe pay someone else to create some marketing content to get online with social media? Or I'll just stick with these two for today, money and time. So go ahead, and if you want to, you're watching this video later, feel free to pause it and just think of yourself and get out a notebook and just write out the resources you have available, and then ask yourself one piece of advice. How could I further maximize the resources that I currently have access to? How could I further maximize? For me, that's getting up at 5 a.m., ranting on the camera on the live shows and getting after it and going after it that way. It's my time is better suited for that because now it's done and I don't have to look at it for the rest of the day. And it's only 5:30 a.m. and I'm already in my office suited up and I can get right to my writing assignment, right to my coaching sessions in the morning, whatever it may be. So resources, writing out your resources for your money and your time. This last one, in essence of determining the health of a business, would be global thinking. So market cycles are product and service cycles, more specifically. The time frames are getting on them very, very short, such as stock prices on bigger tech companies. Apple's a phone company now. If you look at where they're making all their money, it's pretty disgusting what they're hammering home on the phones. So under global thinking, being the phone company. So product cycles are getting shorter and shorter. Again, the example was with Apple, and if each year they don't produce a new phone and meet a certain sales requirement, stock price suffers, capitalization rate, etc. So the point of being open to global thinking is looking at other businesses, maybe competition research is probably how. So health of business, open to global thinking. So what could this be under? Research and development. And again, a little tidbit on research and development that my coach has given me, not so much research and development when you're starting out is rip off and duplicate. That's what people do. And I'm not saying that you can't go make a brand new innovative product. What I'm saying is it's probably pretty much everything that's been done has already been done. And it's okay to go look at 5 competitors who do what you want to do. 5 other people, 5 other coaches, 5 other real estate investors, 5 other people who are doing the business model that you want to implement, living the lifestyle that you want to implement, and then just be open to making lifestyle changes that they live. Such as, Tanner, I want to grow a couple big companies. It's going to take me a long time, but I'm willing to do the work. I'm open to it. It's like, I would say, well, maybe you hop on the 5 a.m. show and then you're working on your business ideas while you're just kind of having me listen and chat and rant in the background until you're up and moving on your own. So thinking of ways that we can be a little more open, copycat style, pulling things out from the outside to implement and to better improve our own system. Well, I hope did we even get global thinking on there? For thumbnail purposes, we're going to go ahead and get that on there, and then we'll wrap up. Open to global thinking, leadership, education, character determination, rule of law. Rule of law was a little confusing, then going through having the expectations laid out for people so we're not playing this game of surprises. Reducing the corruption, the self-inflicted pain on ourselves, resources, and open-minded thinking and studying competition. Think to yourself, I'll go ahead and lay out this list in the show notes for today. See if there's anything on here that you can personally improve for yourself, that you can apply to your own business. What do you need to take action on to get where you need to go? And as always, join us next week as we will be back bright and early at 5 a.m. Central Standard Time Monday morning. I gotta say, the clocks are rolling back. This is the best time to try and get up early and build a new skill to get after it. You're going to have more sunlight. Personally, for me, that's a lot easier and a lot more motivating to do that. So when you turn back the clocks this week, don't even get up an hour earlier. Just get up when you've been getting up, and it'll be an hour earlier for your benefit. If you're having that much hard of a time with it. I personally believe getting up and actually get going on the things that you need to be doing in the morning is one of the easily the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Just you're not being told what to do, and it's hard work, and you got to go do it. So if we can just make a match between that, we'll be putting ourselves forward, getting closer to our goals, and being able to give back to other people. Thanks, everybody. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend. Let's get after it. We're not getting any younger. We got the weekend. Say if you're a 9-to-5er, you got the weekend. Let's get a little jump start on some creative measures, some thoughts, going over these tips and tricks and trying to see where we can improve our own personal health or in our business's health from one of the masters himself, Ray Dalio. Thanks, everyone. Feel free, check out my website at talktotanner.com. Additionally, that's where I provide one-on-one coaching to help you reach your highest performance. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.